Is Volume 9 the redemption of Ruby? Let's talk about that. If you clicked on this video, I'm sure you know what Ruby is. 4 teenage girls with awesome weapons fighting monsters and villains to save the world, accompanied by a killer soundtrack. The show has run for over a decade with over 100 episodes to choose from, and various side media to engage with as well. Created by Monty Ohm, may he rest in peace, the show has persisted and evolved throughout its lifetime, as you can tell by the animation quality. However, it has not all been smooth sailing, as Ruby has been subject to a lot of criticism over the years, not helped by the real-world situation involving Rooster Teeth the company. After Volume 8, it seemed to me like the distaste for Ruby Online had reached a peak, not helped by the 2-year hiatus the show had leading to Volume 9. Before we begin discussion, there are 2 disclaimers. Any praise I give in this video is to the talented people at Ruby, not to Rooster Teeth as a company. Their actions over the years have been deplorable, and I hope they are sincere in their promise to be better. I will also not be getting into the argument about whether or not Volume 9 and the show as a whole is following Monty's vision. Why not? Because I am not Monty. I wasn't his friend, I wasn't his family, I never knew the guy. And so it seems disrespectful for me to put words in his mouth and judge the people who actually did know him regarding how his show and legacy is being carried out. Not using a dead man's name as a weapon to me is a pretty standard respectful practice, but it seems some people on the internet skip that lesson in human decency. Also, there will be some spoilers discussed here in the video. So, Volume 9. Whether you love or hate the ending of Ruby Volume 8, we can all agree that it definitely was a climactic ending. Characters fighting and dying, new plot revelations being brought up, and a whole lot of uncertainty the entire time over exactly what would happen next. Some aspects got neglected, some aspects got too much focus if you ask me, and some were executed very well. And at the end of it all, we have most of the side protagonists now in vacuo, Cinder and Salem with 2 relics, and Team Ruby, Jean and Neo washed up on Wampa Island, because they couldn't follow the one rule Ambrosius gave to them. This place is the Ever After, what I believe to be an alternate dimension similar to the Maiden Vaults. Quick update after the ending of episode 10, I was so wrong. And it's where Volume 9 takes place. The fact that it's disconnected from directly affecting the main plot of the story led some people in advance to write this volume off as a filler volume and not worth their time. First of all, they clearly don't know what filler means. Second of all, they're right, the story here doesn't directly affect the main conflict with Salem and the relics, but this volume serves a purpose that is arguably more important at this time in the story. You see, by taking us away from the main story, it gives us, and the characters, a chance to breathe. The plot of Ruby has been moving fast since Volume 4, except when it was moving way too slowly, and as such we haven't really seen our characters have a chance to properly process all that they've gone through. There's always been another objective to focus on, another mission to begin. But here, besides getting back to Remnant, which the Ruby girls have no idea how to do, there's nothing for them to do here but think. This volume allows us to get a deeper look into who these girls are as characters, and Volume 9 does this really well. The first 3 episodes of the volume are honestly a little slow, good at intrigue building but nothing really stand out, but episode 4 bursts through the wall like the Kool-Aid man of character development, and it's there where things start to get real. The scene with the herbalist is brilliant. We see the character states of Weiss, Blake and Yang, how they've changed from their Volume 1 selves and become stronger, with the affirmation, I am a huntress. It's a beautiful scene and I highly recommend you go watch it. However, you may have noticed I excluded one character from that mini lineup, and that's because she deserves a little more specific focus, which I believe is the same train of thought that the writers had. You can look at my opening question in the video in 2 lights. Is Volume 9 the redemption of Ruby? In one case, that speaks about the redemption of the show as a whole, but it can also be said that Volume 9 is the redemption of Ruby Rose, the main character. Ruby has caught flack over the years for being boring, underdeveloped, too happy, so naturally the writers took that and put her through a boatload of trauma. This is what you guys wanted, right? The work done with Ruby's character in Volume 9 is honestly kind of jaw-dropping. We get hints of things building within her throughout Volumes 1 to 8, and then it all comes crashing down within the span of 7 episodes. Things go from 0 to 110 real quick. We see how Ruby, who bear in mind is still a 17-year-old girl, reacts to the accumulated stress of all the horrible things she's been forced to endure. She gets snappier, she can't bring herself to fight, and you can see her visibly struggling to keep it all together. Hearing about the death of Penny, one of her closest friends who has already died once before, sends Ruby on a downward spiral, and it just keeps spinning like a Beyblade. When asked by the herbalist Visions what she wants to be, Unlike the other girls, Ruby is the one who can't give an answer. Why continue to be the hero if you can't save the world? How can you call yourself a hero if you fail? Seems Ruby's been watching one too many RubyTuber video essays. This subtle yet significant build-up all culminates in her lashing out at her closest friends and her sister, letting out all her anger on the people that care about her the most, because, well, that's what trauma can do to you. It's not healthy, and that's the point. The show makes it clear Ruby isn't in a good space, and does so in a fairly realistic way, or at least realistic from my point of view. And if you thought that was rough, Episode 8? Good grief. Episode 8 was a heavy episode, and contained themes I never thought would be in an episode of RWBY. It was shocking and a little tough to watch honestly, but also so well done. The moment when Ruby chose to drink the tea in order to ascend was one of my most shocking moments in all of the show's history. It was rather heavy for someone who's struggled with thoughts like that in the past, and it'll be sticking with me for quite a while. But of course, there were two others that fell along with our core 4 girls, and a bunch of others, but we ignore them. Jean chooses not to show up until the end of episode 5, and when he does, he reveals himself to have become a DILF. Man went from, "I'll have your daughter home by 10, sir," to, "I'll have your daughter home by 10, sir, but I also have a midlife crisis." Given that Jean was the one to mercy kill Penny, and he's been mostly by himself for at least 2 decades, our former banana boy has certainly seen better days. His character state is both tragic and compelling to examine, and his realization and acceptance in episode 9 of his failures, alongside Weiss's words of encouragement, is one of my favourite scenes in the volume. His development is very well done, and I believe his inclusion in this volume is more than justified, even if his reason for being aged up is rather out of nowhere. You know, they say fruit picking is an activity that can help you unwind. Oh Jesus fuck, they meant it literally! We also have Neo, who arrives and immediately starts murdering the local wildlife. She then feels guilty, and decides to repopulate by just creating a miniature army of physical illusions that can take on the forms and powers of anything. Neo's semblance has just gone absolutely game breaker this volume, and I can guarantee she is not going to be taking that power back to Remnant, unless she time skips to the finale of course. It's never explained how this happened or why this happened, but that power is what led to 90% of the trauma of episode 8. People simp for Neo, despite the fact she beat a 17-year-old to the point of bleeding using illusions of various people she failed to save, and then made that 17-year-old accidentally kill the form of one of her best friends, while illusions of her remaining friends watch on in horror. Yes, that is episode 8. It goes hard. Do not watch it if you're not prepared to deal with heavy themes and scenes. This warning was entirely justified and probably not sufficient. After Ruby drinks the tea and goes to the tree, Neo sort of just sits there and gives up on everything, and I find this actually satisfying. My biggest critique of Neo as a character up to now is that she's hardly a character. All she does is kill people and seek revenge on whoever she blames for Roman's death at the time, and once she gets Ruby killed, she realizes this herself. She has nothing to live for outside of revenge, and it's still not enough to fill the void left by Roman's death. This is taking a character flaw and turning it into an actually legitimate plot point, and I'm here for it. Also, because I have no way to mention this in a way that flows naturally in the script, Volume 9 made me a fan of Bumblebee. This was a nice scene. Less nice was the rage online from critics, and I use that word with huge quotation marks, but I am happy that Blake and Yang finally got together in a satisfying way. That was all. But while RWBY is a character-focused show, there's still more things that make up this experience, and the biggest additional factor in Volume 9 is the Ever After itself. This place comes out of nowhere, relatively speaking, and is so far removed from the rest of Remnant that it's hard not to see its existence as jarring. And really, that's the idea. This is a completely alien world that our heroes only barely know about because they read about it in a children's storybook, and exploring it alongside them is a fun time. The new world gives the team behind the show a chance to really flex their muscles in terms of environmental design and scenery, because the Ever After is striking, detailed, beautiful, and even haunting all at the appropriate times. We practically get one new biome or corner of the world per episode, and they're all a feast for the retinas. My personal favourites are the market in episode 5 and the Ponderstorm, the former for the life and atmosphere of the place, and the latter for what it represents as well as the visuals. But there is one more significant location that we'll talk about right now actually. As I've mentioned a couple times, the world of the Ever After revolves around a giant tree. Urizen would be so proud, and the characters try to get there in hopes of returning home, only to learn more about the tree from various conflicting sources throughout the volume. and we're left wondering, what the hell is this thing? Is it death? Does it signal rebirth? Is it just a very big plant with no further purpose? If I broke it down, would I get jungle or oak wood? Well, come episode 9, we get our answer. The tree does indeed embody ascension, or becoming something new. It's unclear if this little layout that Ruby sees is how everyone sees it, or if every person gets a personalized pocket dimension to contemplate their ascension. Whatever the case, this is a beautiful location where Ruby ends up, inside the tree or wherever she is, and those scenes are also some of my favourites in the volume, and they came right near the end. So the Ever After doesn't get boring at any point throughout the 10 episode runtime. It's a wonderful location and I'm very glad we came here. The denizens of the Ever After are also rather neat, very varied in what exactly they are. We've got Rocket Raccoon, this thing, and a bunch of sentient paper that nothing bad would ever happen to. And I'm not being entirely sarcastic when I say that either. The standout residents of the Ever After are of course the blacksmith, for reasons I'll talk about in a moment, and the curious cat, who is a fun and quirky glowing cat that would never do anything to hurt you. Now, I wrote and recorded the entirety of this script up to now before the Volume 9 finale, Episode 10, because I wanted to give my thoughts on 90% of the volume before we get to the curse. The curse of RWBY volumes having lackluster finales. What do I mean? Well, Volume 1's finale doesn't feel like a finale, not climactic enough. Volume 2's finale is cool in concept, but misses in places in execution. Volume 3's finale is incredible, and is the reason why that volume is heralded as the best in all of RWBY. Volume 4's finale is just fine, but no more than fine. Volume 5's finale is disappointing, and the reason why that volume is heralded as the weakest in all of RWBY. Volume 6's finale drops the ball after some stellar build-up over 8 episodes. Volume 7's finale is action-packed and overall satisfying, a good setup for Volume 8, but has some questionable writing choices that hold it back in the eyes of many fans. And, while I may look at Volume 8's finale more positively now, there's plenty of people out there that despise it, and I do think it has some issues. So, where does Volume 9's finale stand? Does it cement Volume 9 as the greatest volume of RWBY so far? Or does it represent another case of the RWBY creators stumbling right as they reach the final goal? The answer is... they nailed it. Those absolute madmen and madwomen nailed it. The Volume 9 finale was utterly fantastic, the best one the show has had except for Volume 3, and I'm so happy about that. RWBY's arc is resolved, or at least progressed, in a satisfying way. I know that some people won't be happy with how it doesn't end with a big change or revelation or her being entirely different, but I like to look at it as RWBY realizes she's not perfect, that she's struggling, that sometimes things go wrong. And that's okay. That happens to everyone. And she will be okay. That resolution means a lot to me personally, or at least that's how I interpreted it. To list more positives, the ending fight is one of the best in the entire show. They actually made RWBY's scythe combat look good for the first time in several volumes. This fight is so amazing! We get more hints at Summer Rose, and we get an incredible lore bomb dropped on us. The revelations in this episode had me stunned, and I'm now more curious than ever as to where the story goes on from here, as well as the overall lore of Remnant and the world surrounding it. The ending shot was beautiful, serving as either a vague yet optimistic ending to the series if it doesn't get its next volume, or setting us up on a tee for the next big wave of adventure and vacuo come Volume 10. Also, everything about the blacksmith was equal parts mysterious and incredible. Who would have thought that the embodiment of a cosmically powerful tree would turn out to be such a good therapist? I'm not going to talk any more about the finale, so please, just go and watch it. Trust me, it's well worth it. Well, that was Volume 9. What a ride. Is the volume perfect? Of course not. I feel the first 3 episodes are a little too slow for their own good, and I feel they struggled a little overall with the tone of the volume. Some moments didn't get the emotional depth I feel they needed, and this can be attributed to the shortness of the volume. They may or may not have had time to flesh out every big moment while still fitting in the overall story. However, the strength of this volume, the music, the animation, the revamped fights, the character work, the storytelling, they far outweigh the negatives, and I have no hesitation in calling Volume 9 my new favourite volume of RWBY, even better than Volume 3. We had better get that Volume 10 after all the setup this volume just gave us. I will march personally into the headquarters of Crunchyroll and throw $5 at them, if that will get us one step closer to seeing how this story plays out. Now, given I've just talked at length about what I liked and didn't like about Volume 9, let's answer our question. is RWBY Volume 9, The Redemption of RWBY? Yes and no. Yes, because this volume, when taken in context of the show, is the best volume so far, and it was an absolute joy to watch. And no, because, in my eyes, RWBY never needed redeeming in the first place. Thank you everybody for listening to me rant about RWBY for the better part of 20 minutes, and I hope you enjoyed. Making this video was somewhat spur of the moment. With us now entering into another RWBY hiatus, I wanted to give my thoughts on the show while I can, and I hope you enjoyed following along with that. If you like this video and want to see more of my content, please subscribe to the channel and stay tuned for future videos coming up rather soon. If you want to help fund my Throw Money at Crunchyroll for Volume 10 plan, you can head to my Patreon in the description. Once more, thank you all for watching, see you in the next video, and may we all keep moving forward together.